In this video, we're going to go through the different methods of solving quadratic equations. And we have 4 different methods. We can solve by factoring if it's factorable, by completing the square, by the square root method if it's already in vertex form, and by the quadratic formula. So I gave you sets of questions, and obviously yours were a little bit smaller. I printed them on a small sheet of paper. And these are level 1 questions because these are the easier types of questions that you might get. And I asked that you solve each of them using a different method. So let's go ahead and get started. I said the first one, you needed to solve it by factoring. So you'll have x squared minus 4x equals 0. When I look at this, which factoring technique am I going to use? I am going to use GCF. And the GCF here is just an x. And pull out the x. So I'm going to think of these as I'm dividing by x. X squared over x is just x, minus the x's cancel here, so minus 4. And so I'm just going to take each of these and set them equal to 0. There you go. These are the roots. So you have solved by factoring. The next one we want to solve by completing the square. So you are given x squared plus 2x minus 3. So we're going to work on this side. Remember, equal 0 is going to stay there. So there's nothing here, so we're just going to make some room. And we're going to take this half of this number. We get a 1. We're going to square that number. This is the one that gets added and subtracted. The middle one comes down, so we have x plus 1 squared minus 4, 0. Alright, so this is completing the square. We are now in vertex form. So now we are going to solve. Since this is minus 4, we're going to add 4 to both sides of the equations, opposite signs of that equal sign, right? On the left side, on the right side. And there's nothing here, so we're going to take the square root. Square root cancels the radical sign. The square root cancels the square, I mean. We can drop the parentheses at this point. What's the square root of 4? Where it can be a 2 or a negative 2. When you subtract 1 from here, you have to subtract 1 from each of the roots, from each of the positive and the negative 1 here. So you have that x equals, what's 2 minus 1? 1. It's negative 2 minus 1, negative 3. So x can equal 1 or negative 3. Okay. By the square root method. And this one works when you have no linear term, right? No bx, or it's already in some form of vertex form. And this one is, I mean, you got an x squared term. There is no linear term here. There's nothing with just an x. You have a quadratic term, a constant, and a constant. So we can go ahead and just add 1 to both sides. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to isolate the quantity that's being squared. Okay. There's nothing there, so we just take the square root, and we get this cancels this. So we have x equals 81 can be a positive 9 or a negative 9. Alright, the last one is x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. Okay. And with this one, you have to check the discriminant first. Well, before you do this, because I know some of you guys struggle with that negative sign, so you need to be able to make sure that you know that a is a 1, B is a negative 5, and that C is a negative 14. You have to be able to read your A, your B, and your C correctly. Alright, now check your discriminant. Alright, B is negative 5, so it's going to be negative 5 squared minus 4 times A times C. And I just can't stress enough how important it is that you type this in correctly in the calculator. Parentheses, see? Negative 5 squared minus 4 times A times C, which is a negative 14. Look, it doesn't hurt to just use your parentheses. They're not needed in this part, but they're definitely needed in the first part. And you get a positive 81. So that means that you have two real roots. So to solve them, you got to use the quadratic formula. So x equals opposite of b. B is a negative 5, so it's going to be a positive 5, plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. But you already know what that is. It's an 81. Over 2 times a. 2 times a happens to be a 1. Alright, you're going to get two answers. First answer, you're just going to use the plus sign. So you're going to have 5 plus, it's hard for me to get it at the right light angle, 5 plus square root of 81 over 2 times 1. Obviously the times 1 is not needed, but and you get a 7. And you're going to go back. No, not that back. Oh, I don't know how to use my calculator. Don't laugh. And then you're going to do it again. You can do 5, but instead of doing plus, you're going to do minus. Minus this minus. The square root of 81 over 2 times 1, just for. Obviously, the times 1 is not needed, but you get a negative 2. And these are your roots. Let's work with level 2 problems. You ready? Here we go. Alright, if we want to factor this, we have to have 0 on the right hand side. So you have 18x squared minus 6x equals 0. And once again, this one doesn't warrant trinomial factoring. It warrants GCF. Let's see, 6 times 3 is 18, so we can pull out a 6 and a single x, right? So it's going to be 6x times something equals 0. To find that something, we're going to divide these by 6x. 18 over 6 is 3, so we have a 3x. Yeah, 2 and 1, one of them cancels out. Minus 6x over 6x is a 1. Yeah, so you just take each of these, you set them equal to 0. There you go, roots. Alright, we're going to solve by completing the square. Oh, I'm running on 10 minutes. I'm just going to hurry up, make sure this doesn't go over too much. Minus 12x plus 26 equals 0. There's nothing in front, so we're just going to make some room. I'm going to take half of this, but don't forget this is negative 12. It's a negative 6. Square that and you get a positive 36. This is what you add and this is what you subtract. Middle comes down, x minus 6 squared, and you calculate this. What's that, negative 10? Alright, this is, well, this side here is vertex 4. So now, solve. You add 10. You always get rid of this value that you're adding or subtracting here. Send that over to the other side first. Bring this down. There's nothing to divide out here, so we're going to go ahead and take care of the square. Square root of 10. If you have a Casio, you'll notice that the square root of 10 is the square root of 10. See? But you have a positive one, and you have a, I forgot the square root, negative 1. And we're going to add 6. Let's see. 6 plus radical 10 and 6 minus radical 10. Those are your answers. And you might have written like this, 6 plus or minus the square root of 10. They're both correct. Anyways, these are your roots. And yes, this one too, whichever way you want to present the answer. Alright, solving by the square root method. There's nothing to add or subtract here, so you go straight for the number in front. Divide it out. This is implied multiplication right here, see? So we divide it out. We have x minus 3 quantity squared equals 4. And so now you take care of the square by taking the square root. The square root of 4 is a 2 or a negative 2. And then you add 3. But remember, add 3 to all of them. So you have x equals 5 and x equals 1. Not bad when you know what you're doing. Okay. And to solve by the quadratic formula, let me just copy this. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals 0. First thing we're going to do is identify our a, negative 3, and our c, negative 5. Then we're going to check our discriminant. B is a negative 3. Careful with those parentheses. C is a negative 5. Use the calculator. Okay, I get the light right here. Parentheses, negative 3, parentheses, square that, minus, minus over here. Notice when I'm subtracting, I'm using this one, and when I need a negative sign, I use that one. Alright, minus 4 times 2 times negative 5. 49. And 49 means that it's a number greater than 0, so you got 2 real roots. So now we're going to solve for them. X equals opposite of b. B is a negative 3, so we get positive 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, but we know what that is. That's a 49. Over 2 times 1. I mean 2 times a, and a is a 2. Okay, so you're going to get 2 answers. The first one is with a plus sign, the next one is with a minus sign. So here we go. Fraction bar, 3 plus the square root of 49 over 2 times 2, which is a 4. 5 halves. And then put a minus sign there. Negative 1. So those are your roots. Alright. I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.